One criticism I get a lot from the haters on my channel is, Michael, when are you going to talk about good news? Everything here is so negative. This is so bad. I'm unsubscribing. Well, here's some good news for you. The used car prices are coming down so much right now that it's actually pulling down the inflation numbers. So that's good news because cars have gotten way out of control with pricing, just like housing has. And cars are so expensive now that people are defaulting on their car loans at record rates. So that's not good news, but it is good news that it's going to bring down the price of these cars. And it's all about supply and demand, which is something the housing market hasn't seen and hasn't caught up to yet, but the used car market surely has. In fact, the car prices are coming down so much that it's the #1 category in the CPI data that is bringing the inflation numbers down right now, which is yet another illusion because, okay, the government, the Fed, they keep celebrating how every month we're getting lower inflation numbers now, but not really recognizing the fact that, hey, it's mostly just one category bringing it down. It's not like, you know, everything in life across the board is getting cheaper now. No, you just have a couple categories like these used car prices that are actually bringing it down. That doesn't do anything for you when it comes to filling your refrigerator with food or how much your rent has gone up, nothing. In fact, the June CPI report came out and it showed that used vehicle prices are down 10.1% year over year. So the used car market is crashing right now. I mean, that is a massive drop in car prices. And of course, it got overheated and it needs to come down by a lot more than that to be affordable for a lot of people. And why is this happening? Well, it's happening because the supply of brand new vehicles are up about 50% since July of 2023. And that's just in 1 year. They're able to bring online the supply of these brand new cars a lot faster than they can when it comes to building new houses. And the problem with brand new cars, as we all know, is they're so expensive that most people can't afford to buy one. But interestingly enough, they say in this story that part of the reason that used car prices are coming down is because more people are finding themselves with more options to buy new cars rather than used cars, because now the supply of those are so huge right now. And there's a lot of deals, guys. In fact, I'll put up this thing I got in the mail from Jeep. They're giving you like big deals right now on their summer clearance sale, trying to get people in and buy these cars right now. It says here, blowout sale, $18,000 off MSRP, okay? Get these make and models. They're still holding on to brand new 2022 models here. As you can see, 2022, 2023, 2024 new or pre-owned Chrysler Pacificas, Dodge Chargers or Challengers, Jeep Compass, Gladiators or Wranglers, Ram trucks. Okay, so those are like obviously the types of vehicles that they haven't been able to sell because those are the ones they're still hanging on to 2022 models of. I mean, that is insane. Because if you think about it, these brand new cars come out like a year ahead of time, right? Like it's 2024 and already we're gonna see 2025 models coming out. So if these car dealerships have brand new models on their lots from 2022, that means that they got that car all the way back in 2021. So they've been hanging on to that car for the past 3 years and haven't been able to sell it. For anybody wondering where this beautiful location on earth I am right now, this is called Lake Bontempi. It's one of the Mount Tam watersheds. This is basically the water supply out here for Marin County. Supposedly, this water supply gets water to about 200,000 residents around here. And I'll tell you what, it is beautiful out here, but I kind of regret coming out here because it's like 90 degrees out here today. And when I left Tiburon, it was only 69. And I came out here to cool off, not to feel like I'm still in Florida. So don't know if I'm gonna be coming out to places like this much more often after this because I'm here to be in the cool weather, not in the hot weather. Now, just to give you guys an idea of how far things got blown out of proportion with car prices, even with the recent decline in used car prices, they're still about 30% more expensive than they were pre-pandemic. And when you combine that with the fact that we have high interest rates right now, then it makes the car payments unaffordable for most people. So it still eliminates a lot of people from going out and buying a used car, let alone a new car. According to Experian, in the first quarter of 2024, the average used monthly payment for a car was $523 per month compared to $414 in 2021. Which honestly, that sounds kind of crazy to me, because when I got a brand new Jeep back in 2019, just the year before the pandemic, my payment was $550 a month for that Jeep back then. It was brand new. And now people are paying close to that for used cars, guys. That's how much these interest rates combined with the price hikes in cars are affecting people's payments right now. And by the way, I don't have that payment anymore. I don't have a car payment, just because I want people to know that I practice what I preach. But the reason why this is good news is because for people who are out shopping for a car right now, you can get a much better deal than you could have gotten a year ago, similar to people who are shopping for a house. Is it the best time to buy a used car? Probably not. Is it the best time to buy a house? Definitely not. But you can still get a better deal than you could a year ago, which is a positive sign of improvement for anybody who needs one or the other. And some things that you can do to get a good deal on a car right now is you want to expand your search. You know, forget about just going to your local dealerships. You can start with that, but if you're not finding what you want, you know, expand your search online. Check eBay Motors, check Auto Trader, check different sites like that, and you can search the entire country for the type of car you want to get. Also, you can look at vehicles that are in lower demand. Like this Flyer from Jeep I just showed you guys. Clearly those vehicles are in lower demand. Otherwise, they wouldn't be holding on to them from still 2022 models. You know what I mean? But you could still go into one of these dealerships and buy that 2022 model and probably get a massive deal, almost like buying a used car, even though it's brand new. Now, a lot of you probably already know that there was a massive cyber attack last week with Crowdstrike, okay? And it caused billions of dollars worth of damages in terms of, you know, delayed flights, delivery delays, closed stores, all kinds of things like that that couldn't happen because of the Crowdstrike cyber attack. Here's the crazy thing, guys. Even though Crowdstrike is essentially responsible for all of these losses, the billions of dollars in losses from all these businesses across the world, okay? They're technically only responsible to refund the subscription fees for their clients during this time. That's it. They're not responsible for the billions in dollars of losses that their system outage caused. And now guess what? A lot of companies that were affected by this Crowdstrike outage, what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to file an insurance claim to try and recoup some of these losses, if it's going to be even possible. I'd be willing to bet a lot of insurance companies probably won't even cover something like this unless it's specifically named in their policy. So far, there's more than 75 companies that are preparing to file insurance claims in the wake of this cyber attack. And guess what? Just because you file an insurance claim doesn't mean it's going to get approved, number one, but even if it does, you're not going to get the money immediately. That's what always happens with insurance. There's always a waiting period. They always have to investigate to make sure you don't have fraud being committed. So there's a big process that you have to go through to even get the money to begin with. And on top of that, just like typical insurance money, you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of money back that you potentially lost. Say you're going to make a claim, say my company lost $10 million because of this Crowdstrike outage, and your insurance policy actually covers it. They might do an investigation and, 90 days later, you'll get a check for, $3 million if you're lucky. You're still losing 70% of that money. Now, they do say here that certain cyber insurance policies include coverage for non-malicious incidents, and affected businesses have to consider certain variables such as deductibles and waiting periods before making claims. So that's another fancy way that insurance wants to get you to just not make a claim, of course, because it's going to be a lot of time wasted and energy. Probably not going to get that much money back. You're going to have to wait a while. Maybe you should just forget about it. And this is probably going to be another huge opportunity for insurance companies moving forward, as more companies are probably going to start offering some sort of cyber insurance in order to supposedly cover people for incidents like this. Here's the thing, a lot of companies and businesses, they don't have this cyber insurance. Probably one, because they never thought they would probably need it. And even number two, if they wanted to get it, a lot of companies can't afford it because it's expensive, and you have to be able to show and prove to the insurance company that you can even qualify for one of these outages to begin with if something were to happen. And they don't want to call this a cyber attack either. They don't want to say this was a hack. They just said it was, some kind of technological failure. It wasn't really a security breach. It wasn't a cyber attack, but we don't know that yet, right? And supposedly this Crowdstrike outage was actually caused by the company trying to implement patching software, which is used to actually protect against malicious cyber threats. So the very act of trying to protect their clients, they ended up screwing everybody over. And my question is, why isn't a company like Crowdstrike, that's in charge of so much cybersecurity with all these different companies, why don't they have insurance that covers this? In case something were to happen like what did happen, and all of their clients lose a bunch of their data, lose a bunch of business because their systems aren't working properly. How come they're not required to have insurance for this? Because after all, they're the ones who are responsible for it. And it says here that all these companies that are going to file claims with this are lucky if they get coverage for things like their legal fees, their personnel, and loss of employee productivity. But we're not talking about anything here with like loss of sales, anything like that. No, that's probably not going to be covered. And the thing is that this whole Crowdstrike situation needs to be now looked at as the model, the blueprint of what could potentially happen if something were to go wrong, or there were to be a global cyber attack in some way. Like everybody's cheering on AI and hoping this is going to make everything great, but it really could end up just making problems like this a whole lot worse, maybe even exponentially worse if AI gets good enough. Ever seen Terminator, guys? There are dozens or not even hundreds of movies out there that cover this kind of scenario that were made 40 years ago or more that kind of predicted all this and where it might end up when things get out of control. So I gave you the good news about the car market. Now you're going to hear the bad news about the real estate market. And that is that FHA delinquencies on FHA loans are literally skyrocketing right now, okay? 11% of U.S. consumers with FHA loans on single-family properties are delinquent right now. And the number one cited reason for this is unemployment. And we've seen the unemployment rate tick up substantially over the past 6 months, guys. We've seen it go from 3.5% to 4.1% relatively quickly, which actually triggers the SOM rule, something that I've talked about here on the channel several times, which basically is a measure of unemployment and the rate that it goes up. And when it goes up by more than half a percentage point within a 12-month period, that's a warning sign that the economy is heading for disaster. And the FHA delinquencies are starting to showcase this, and that's not really a big surprise because in case you don't know much about FHA loans, those are the type of loans the government gives that you only have to put 3.5% down for. So people that buy these houses typically don't have a lot of money. They can't afford a large house payment, but their payment ends up being larger because of such a low down payment they put down. And typically people use FHA loans because they just don't have the money to do a conventional loan. That means if they have any kind of financial hiccup in their life, like being unemployed like this, they probably won't be able to make the payments, which is exactly what we're seeing. Now, the highest level that we've seen these FHA delinquencies get to in recent history was 14.2% back in 2009. Guys, we are already at 11%. That is right around the corner. 14.2% is not that far away from where we are right now. And I find this information interesting, especially since it comes alongside some of Fannie Mae's forecasts of where the housing market's going for the rest of the year and beyond, okay? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is their interest rate prediction, because they are predicting that by Q4 of 2024, by the end of the year, we're going to be at 6.7% interest rates. And the reason why that is funny is because their previous prediction at the beginning of this year or the end of last year was that we were going to be at 5.5% mortgage rates by the end of the year. Now they're talking only 6.7, guys, so hardly even moving from where it is right now. But then get this, even moving into the Q4 of 2025, okay, a whole year and a half from right now, the end of 2025, their prediction is that mortgage rates are going to be at 6.2%. That's still not even really that much lower. It is lower than it is right now by almost a full percentage point. But if home prices don't come down substantially in that year and a half time frame, the vast majority of people still won't be able to afford a house. The affordability problem will remain. And obviously anybody's predictions you have to take with a grain of salt, including my own. In fact, I try not to make predictions anymore because some of the predictions I've made in the past were wrong, and people get upset when you don't have predictions down to the exact date and time that something is gonna happen. Now let's talk about their predictions for where they think prices are going. They think that we're gonna end 2024 with home prices up 6.1%, guys, which I don't know. I guess it's possible, you know, because the more I look into this and the more I talk about it, and since we're just looking at the median home price nationwide, and really the high end of the market is carrying that median home sales figure, I think it might happen. But it's not a true reflection of what's happening across the entire country, believe it or not. Because truly only people that have a lot of money are buying these houses right now. And we know that people aren't buying homes because we have seen an inventory uptick of 30% more homes available right now than 1 year ago, yet the home sales are at the lowest that we've ever seen. And so the homes that are selling are typically on the higher end, you know, $500,000 and up right now. And they're selling to still very well qualified people that can easily afford those properties. And so when most of the home sales, are, you know, more than half of them that are taking place are on the high end of the market, naturally it's going to bring up that median sales figure. So their prediction on this may end up coming true, and unfortunately it's going to signal to a lot of people that the housing market's stronger than ever when they see that median home value continue to rise, even though that doesn't reflect reality. But they do admit here that they think in 2025 it's going to slow down substantially because they think it's going to be up 6.1% this year, but by next year that figure is going to drop to only 3% up year over year. So even the richest people are not going to be able to continue carrying this economy forward forever, guys, which is a point that I have made time and time again on my channel. And what this data shows you is that it's not just that we need inventory on the housing market. We're getting inventory, but the problem is all the inventory for the most part is still too expensive for most people to afford. And that is the largest problem we are facing. So I think we could see a situation over the next several years where the inventory just continues to build and prices come down, but very marginally. You know, there are a lot of markets, like I showed you guys before. I'll put up this chart again because I like showing it in recent videos, that there are a lot of markets out there that are not only down year over year, but down substantially from where it was before the pandemic. So it's not like there aren't any markets across the country that are seeing losses right now. There are plenty that are seeing losses. But when you look at the high level nationwide numbers, I think the most likely scenario that we're going to see moving forward is the inventory levels continue to rise, and these giant year-over-year leaps in home price appreciation are going to continue slowing down year after year. And realistically, that's what we're already seeing right now, but it's probably just going to continue to slow down more and more unless people start making a tremendous amount more of money to be able to afford these homes at these prices. And anybody who is listing these homes that actually wants to sell them, they're going to have to take some losses, guys. I've already shown you a couple of example properties even here in the fancy Bay Area where you have nothing but tech millionaires living all around here that have bought homes in 2022 and are now selling them for less than what they paid for just 2 years ago. And the more that people pay for these properties, the more these price cuts are significant, the more they have to, you know, lower the price to get somebody in, right? Because how many people can afford to buy a $1.2–1.5 million home? Not that many. But even on the low end of the market, houses that used to be $200–250,000 are now $400–450,000. So even people who are selling those houses are at some point going to have to get realistic with what they can charge for these houses if the inventory levels, you know, go too far to control in their area, like we're seeing in places in Florida, like we're seeing in places in Texas. That's most likely just the beginning. And I think if you circle back to the story at the beginning of this video with the car market, showing just how much the used car prices are coming down due to the excess inventory, I think we're going to face the exact same thing over the next 5 years or so in the housing market as the inventory continues to build, guys, because the inventory's been building for over a year now and people are not rushing in to buy it. Okay, we wouldn't be seeing inventory levels go up 30% year over year if people were buying all the houses, you know. A lot of people like to say, oh, the houses fly off the market every time they come up in my neighborhood. Well, that clearly isn't everywhere, especially on a national basis. So I would say if you still live in a market where inventory is low and you've been thinking about selling, do it now before inventory isn't low. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in that price reduction death spiral and maybe end up selling for a lot less than you thought you could. If you are in a market where inventory's exploded, it's time to get realistic on what you can really charge for the house, guys. Clearly, a lot of other people around you had the same idea, thinking they would be able to sell the house no problem. But if that was the case, then the inventory wouldn't be building around you. And I always think sellers in that situation should undercut their neighbors. You know, if your neighbors are charging $400, charge $385, guys. I know it's 15 grand. That's a lot of money. But hey, if you want to get the house sold quickly and you don't want to be sitting on the market for 6 months to a year, that's probably what you're going to have to do to compete against your neighbors. And for anyone who does need a real estate agent, whether you're a seller or a buyer anywhere in the United States, I have a service that is 100% free for you to use. I can recommend you somebody and get you in touch with an agent ASAP. All you have to do is click the link down in the description of this video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.